Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur. I'll be honest, not feeling my best, not doing my best. I'm not sick or anything, just kind of sick of just really feeling like a Spurs fan today. It's just really disappointing. Feels like probably one of the worst performances we've seen ever under Antonio Conte. Feels even worse somehow, the performance than the North London Derby, but we're just going to crank through this. Kind of a disclaimer, David is still not feeling very well, like sick-wise. He is actually very sick, I think, and he's trying to recover as best he can. I think he really did put on a trooper like performance to come on for the watch long yesterday. And then I think today he did not feel any better, really, actually hasn't really recovered yet. So I don't think he's going to be able to show up today for the Twitter React. So it is just going to be myself. But plenty of people have things to say. So I'm just going to kind of let you guys have your voice today, especially via Twitter in the community section. Again, everybody, if you do want to partake in this Twitter Reacts, do just follow us on Twitter. You can find it all down below. Or as well, if you don't really like Twitter, especially think days like today where it is more of a dark kind of universe, you could argue. It's You can also just put your comments in the community section. That also works just fine. Big up Adrian Stroka. Good to see you in the house. Big up Mick Hermelach. Hopefully all is well. Big up Mark. Dire replacement needed in January. I think Dave has mentioned plenty of times and probably mentioned it till he was blue in the face about a dire replacement. And I think when he was asked multiple times about the transfer window, where he really just wanted the focus to be is more upgrades for the defense. And I think that's partly kind of being the main kind of talking point after the Dyer and Davies kind of calamities from last night. Big up though, Mark. Good to see you in the house. Art Green, all is well. Big up, Elias. Really appreciate you, my man. And it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. They just didn't show up. Andy Williams, I did call. I've been saying it at home. United have been creating loads of chances. The other thing too that I thought was kind of funny, Andy, and I wonder if this will get brought up later, so I might as well just bring it up now. The likes of Marcus Rashford clearly was saved for this game, and they maybe used Ronaldo in the other game just to perhaps just see which one was better proven. And it clearly is the case that Ten Hag prefers the likes of Rashford. And it looked like Man United also just played a whole lot better when they had Rashford in the side, who just was able to make the runs, be able to kind of drag defenders everywhere in a much more kind of serious manner than we saw the likes of Ronaldo do it. So, Andy, I think you probably did call it, my man, but I think a huge difference between that team of Man United versus that team of versus Newcastle is that Ronaldo took part in it. Mia W saying afternoon Twitter react should be fun. It will be all the world is ending type stuff. I'm sure Twitter isn't the place to go for a reasonable response, to be honest. But me, I mean, I think you're going to get plenty of great responses. You can get plenty of passionate responses, and I think all are welcome. I think it was just that dismal performance, Mia. It was that disappointing of a result, that disappointing of a performance that I feel like almost any answer is really accepted, after this. And while it may be doom and gloom, I think we're just going to have to face the noise, Mia, because it really was that unacceptable. But I do know what you're saying. And certainly is a dark place. I even put a tweet about it this morning saying, don't really think Twitter is going to be the best of vibes today. Big up, though, Mia. Foggy Foam, Chelsea have Silva playing in the middle of a three. You don't see this stupid errors with age. Does not matter. We need an experienced player in the back. Big up, boys. Foggy Foam, you're right. I mean, Thiago Silva has shown to be exceptional transitioning to the Premier League, and he's probably proven to even be one of the best defenders, you could say, of the modern era because of that, him being able to make those transitions from the likes of Liga to the likes of the Premier League, Serie A, etc. So he has proven to be an exceptional defender, obviously, but at the same time, though, Koulibaly hasn't really made the easiest of transitions, and he has a ton of experience, and we all thought that he would be exceptional. So it really is just sometimes you just have to do the homework on the player, I guess, and you really have to know whether they are capable of stepping up to the Premier League considering age. And I think Eric Dyer, the problem is that the Premier League is really all he knows, Foggy Foam, and he's been here forever. He knows plenty about it. He knows plenty about Spurs. He's been through plenty of managers, and we still kind of see plenty of moments of the same Eric Dyer and same Ben Davies. The thing is, though, is that I think I've been guilty of this, Foggy, is that Antonio Conte has raised their levels to levels that we probably didn't think were possible. And I think myself included have all probably been a bit blinded or kind of influenced by those raise and levels from the likes of Eric Dyer and Ben Davies. But we still, and like I said, myself included, forget what is still in there, like the calamities, the mistakes that are still in there. Hopefully you understood what I meant by that, Foggy Foam. Big yourself up, my man. Nomad in the house. I give up on them. And Conte, feel free to take the week off, Nomad. Mohit Menon had a whole day to reflect on the game, and I'm still so disappointed at how poor we were. I think I even saw Brad Matthews put in a comment, basically, thought he'd feel better after, having a nice, rest and going to bed early. And I don't think he did. And I feel the same way. PJ in the house, I'll be honest. I'm only here for the smiles, but I hope Dave feels better soon. PJ, it's not going to be a good place for the Spurs fans on Twitter, I would say. And hopefully Dave does feel better soon. But like I said, I think he really put on a troopers like performance to show up for the watch along, everybody. So do send him your best thoughts, and also just thank him, I think, for coming on to the watch along. It's very nice of him to do that, because I know he wasn't feeling very well to begin with. So everybody, big up Dave and show him some love. Big up Nick Coupland. Looking forward to discussing your comment later. Last night proves we need a total rebuild at the back, and I just said, Nick, as well, like, I wish Dave were here to vouch for himself, but I mean, the man was probably going blue in the face asking for upgrades in the defense in the transfer market. And I think that was his big sort of caveat, or his big, maybe you could say, criticism of this transfer window, was the lack of a dire replacement and the lack of just major upgrades to the defense, because we haven't upgraded the defense for years. We've sort of upgraded other areas of the park kind of time and time again, whether it's worked or not, but we just continue to sort of just think that we're okay with the defenders that we've just sort of existed with, which being Dyer and Davies and Sanchez. We've just thought that that's been okay to deal with for some time, when it feels like every manager that's come through has always struggled with them in some shape or form. Big up, Nick. Really appreciate you, my man. Adam Phillip, I'm starting to miss Dumpelli. Don't say that. And Delhi, they would have put more effort in. I mean, that's just not true, I think, Adam. I'm sorry. Louise 2705 says, big up Jack, big up Louise. Really appreciate you, my man. Or Louis, sorry. Mia W, I understand it's disappointing. I'm fuming with the players who didn't turn up, and changes should have been done sooner. However, 2 games in the Prem loss, the world isn't going to end. It's the type of attitude I like to hear, Mia, but I just, vouching for the Twitter universe, I guess, mostly because I am one of those kind of Twitter, just Twitter obsessed people myself. So probably just vouching for my fellow Twitter users, but it is going to be a dark place, I can say. Big up Andy Williams and big up Lasego Macona. We're going to be talking about your comment later, my man. Don't you worry. But everybody, before we get into it, do smash that like button, please, especially since this is a solo effort on this very dark day on the Twitter universe. I would really appreciate the support as well. Please put in your comments. I'm going to try to bring them up on screen, but I'm doing a lot of things at once, trying to respond to the people who put in the time and effort and ahead of time to put in their comments via Twitter, as well as in the community posts. And then if you want to skip the queue, if you want to support the channel, feel free to throw it in as a super chat. That way I can sort of kind of skip to yours and get to your thoughts, but I am going to try my best here, sort of kind of keep you guys engaged in the comments, but also kind of respect the people who took the time to put in their thoughts via Twitter. But let's get into it, everybody. Dermot starting off saying enough, or let's go to maybe Dave's comment to begin with. Tonight's performance lacked character, hunger, desire, and commitment, and it was shocking, shambolic, schoolboy, and totally unacceptable. Basuma was shit. Doherty refuses to cross. Dyer and Davies, games like this, they will cost us. Spurs fans, share your thoughts. There you are on terms of what Dave has to say, and the responses from Dermot here says, enough is enough. The players need to look at themselves. As fans, we don't deserve this. How many times have we had to see this? Had this under Poch, Jose, and now Conte. We need to grow a pair. It just felt like the players just simply just didn't show up today, Dermot. And I don't know whether that's Man United hoodoo. I don't know whether that's potentially the way that were set up to begin with. I don't know whether that's just the players just lack the desire, lack the energy in this one. But it really just felt like after the 9th, 10th minute, they just started to really fade away. And even though they kind of set the tone, you thought, like, Spurs, you were kind of thinking like, wow, they're going to try to run Man United here. They're going to show kind of their grit, their muscle. Just felt like all of a sudden we just lost all sense of power, all sense of just at will energy in that team. And they just simply just lost it, Dermot, is what I would say. El Chiavone, we need quality players in January, or Conte walks. Replace Dyer and Davies and get Spence ready. Get another left wing back and keep Perisic as backup for Son. Put Richie as backup for Kane and get a proper backup for Decky, and that is a full bench. I think it's a very delicate month, January, because we are getting rumors that Antonio Conte is fully happy with the project at hand. He's fully happy with the journey at Spurs into getting to titles. But at the same time, there's like some big negotiations going on with the Spurs' will and intent I think to invest in the squad enough for Conte's liking to be challenging for those trophies, to be challenging for those titles. If you guys maybe follow Tottenham Tiers on Twitter, especially if you are on the Twitter universe, I would definitely really recommend it because they at least send out a bunch of sort of sources, whether you believe in them or not, kind of especially about the sort of kind of Conte contract situation. And I think it's going to be a very delicate month, January, especially when it comes to investment, and then also when it comes to what promises that they've made for Conte, because it feels like at this moment in time, I agree, there's some areas in the squad that we know probably were maybe left, unnoticed or left kind of unattended, being like we've said probably already a few times today already. The back line just wasn't addressed. The back line wasn't really given enough attention. And then on top of that, the likes of Dyer and Davies and Sanchez have stuck around for some time without ever really being challenged or replaced. Romero has really been the only inclusion of that time. So it is definitely a delicate month in January. When it comes to the likes of Spence, I think immediately we saw, even though he was only given so much time, what he was able to do that Doherty wasn't. And then I think that is that sort of bravery to take on his man. And it just was sort of disappointing how many times I thought kind of Doherty found himself in a good chance to take on his man, but just simply didn't do it. And then when it comes to getting another left wing back and keep Perisic as a backup for Son, at this moment in time, Perisic is kind of a bit of a confusing one where I think you see the benefits of him as a wing back because he is an excellent sort of extra attacker. He's, when he is that sort of extra forward and that sort of overlap alongside Sonny in a 3-4-3, I think it makes a lot of sense. And even in a 3-5-2, it can make a lot of sense to have someone like Perisic. Then that being said, though, I do feel like his one-on-one defending can be pretty atrocious at times. El Chiavone, and he's also just kind of lacked a bit of the, I don't know, the cutting edge going forward sometimes that maybe we thought he would have. And I think that's just him adjusting to the Premier League. I'm not really panicking about Perisic. I think I understand the arguments that he's probably underwhelmed. I do see that, but I'm also not panicking at the same time. And I think he'll do just fine going into maybe the rest of the season. It's just maybe taking him a bit of time and maybe he's just adjusting to Premier League. One of the things I'm a bit frustrated though with Perisic is I do think he's been kind of a bit, how would I say, just kind of not clinical enough as much as we've seen Perisic in the past. I found that guy in sort of good moments. I found that guy in good moments, or I found that guy in good kind of situations going forward. And I just don't think he really did anything with it. Especially, I thought that was the case against North London Derby. Remember that moment where he was like one on one practically with the keeper with Ramsdale? He just decided to kind of just shank it across goal. Didn't really just take on his defender at all. In the recent game, I thought he had some good opportunities and sort of look at it first with the step overs, created some space for himself, but then ultimately just kind of just failed or just didn't really do enough with it with the final ball or the final touch or whatever. And I think Perisic maybe might be better off just being kind of sort of rotation, across the pitch, various utility sort of positions, I guess. But at the moment at left wing back, he hasn't exactly been the sensation that we thought he would be. That's for sure. I guess Udogi will be the replacement for him. Can we call him in sooner? I don't think we can, El Chiavone, but we do know Udogi's basically been the left wing back of Europe this season. He's been one of the best wing backs in all of Europe this season. So I think we can rest assured know that we do have a very talented player coming in next season. Do we need one sooner than that? I mean, up to you. Put Richie as backup for Kane and get a proper backup for Decky, and that is a full bench. I think Richie is proven time and time to be a good forward when he's come in. Like I said, he had that fabulous assist when he came on as the second striker against Forest. When he came on for Marseille, he had a fabulous effort in bringing the goals for us. Sit in the middle. Just seems to really be struggling with the winger position and adapting to what Conte wants from him there. And you could say one of the big misses of this transfer window was simply maybe not moving out or replacing the likes of Hill or Lucas. I think whichever one you wish to maybe go, they needed to bring in a different one because it seems like once we lose Kulusevski, kind of the 3-4-3 just isn't nearly as effective. And it kind of seems like a lot to ask Lucas or Hill to maybe be the backup to Kulusevski in the 3-4-3 if we truly want it to work consistently. So it is probably now kind of with the benefit of hindsight, a huge miss that we didn't move out the likes of Hill or Lucas, because then we could have brought in somebody that would have been able to make out that 3-4-3 or at least make it a bit more effective in case Kulusevski is out. Just want to get to the comments just quickly. Good to see you, Adam Phillip. Good to see you, Daniel Field. Shem Tan, really appreciate you. Paul Van Ben, Scott Heinem. And Mick Hermelak, really appreciate you all. Hopefully, you're all keeping well. Going to John Stokes here. What do you expect from the likes of Davies and Doherty and co? They're all past their sell by date. Smell the coffee and change the brand. Jose wasn't at fault, and neither is Conte. Fact. I mean, they had to deal with those same players, and those same players, I mean, brought the downfall of them. No, John Stokes, you're absolutely right, my man. Sorry, everybody, just taking a bit of a break. Um, Chris is in the house. Good to see you, Chris. Saying lazy bunch of good for nothing players. Dyer not good enough. Didn't take the donkey Doherty to show true colors. Don't know what the hell Conte is playing Davies in front of Longley. Only one who showed anything was Lloris. It could have been 5 or 6. The rest were dog shit. Just being honest, I think you're absolutely right, Chris, and you probably speak the minds of most Spurs fans right now. And then when it comes to Davies versus Longley, I sort of tried to validate it in the beginning where maybe with the 3-5-2, we don't really have many runners going forward and you need a bit more mobility, and someone like a Ben Davies can make those runs forward more than a Longley can. But at the same time, Chris, like he was just such a liability defensively, Ben Davies, where maybe that doesn't really matter ultimately. If he's going to be a liability defensively, doesn't really matter what he adds to the 3-5-2 kind of going forward. And that's what I think the original logic was, is that he'd be just kind of a bit more mobile in that 3-5-2 to help us kind of progress up the pitch more. But I think it ended up hurting him because Davies is just simply a worse defender. Mark New, poor performance, deserved a poor result. Only Hugo fought for his shirt. Positive, still third in the Premier League, still in all cup competitions. Even though have we even played? Have we even played a domestic? No, we haven't played a domestic cup game. Kulu, Paxton, Emerson, still banned. Spence got time at the end of the game. A January window is make or break. Bastoni and Malinowski, please come on, you Spurs, come on, you Harris Army. I love that, Mark New, and it made me laugh as well. Big yourself up, brother. Ribsy, really appreciate it. Never seen Spurs so unprepared and unmotivated. A bit of life in the first half, which faded away, then came out for the second and looked absolutely defeated in the second. They stepped onto the pitch. I don't know what went on in the sheds at halftime, but they just accepted the defeat. It sort of felt like they just sort of accepted defeat or accepted a draw after about 10 or 12 minutes, Ribsy. I don't know really what happened, because this is kind of a few times where I've seen Spurs start games actually, at least the first 10 or 15 minutes, start actually pretty well. And then all of a sudden, it really is never our game when it kind of reaches that 15-minute to sort of, sometimes in some cases all the way to halftime. But there's usually about a 20-minute spell where we just kind of just concede everything to the other team and just sort of let them back into the game, let them kind of insert their influence. And I think this especially happens away from home, if you get what I'm saying there. And honestly, I think a lot of just the loss and just the result just simply just comes down to the lack of motivation. I don't really know if we really looked that unprepared, because let's be honest, the 3-5-2 is what most fans and what most of us wanted Conte to set up with in the beginning. And I think it did look like the right idea on paper, especially considering we didn't have many players available for us going forward on the bench. And it just seemed like the players just didn't offer the motivation or kind of the willpower that Conte needed in order to kind of suffer through a result. And I think he is one of those managers that right emphasizes sort of suffering to get the result, especially maybe with the quality of players we have on the side. And it seems like it just seems like they should let him down, Ripsy. It just seems like they let him down. Big up, Sue Smith. Good to see you in the chat as well. Bader, good to see you, my man. They have zero excuses for not showing up in these type of games. We're sick of it every single time. They play comfortable at home, but at big games away, they're just scared of doing anything. And I hope we get to chat about this soon in a debate show of some sort, talk about this away form, because it is really concerning. And to me, it sort of more speaks of just a mentality issue and a leadership issue. I don't really know how much of it has to do with Antonio Conte and preparing them for these games. Maybe he could ask them to insert a bit more influence in these games. But like I said, it just seems a bit harsh to pin it on Conte, who's only been here so long and has actually shown a lot of success here in very short time. So it just feels like a weird thing to pin on him, where a lot of these players who've been here for quite some time probably bear the majority of the responsibility when it comes to the mentality of the away form. That's just my opinion, though. So people are welcome to disagree on it. But big up, Potter. And there are zero excuses, especially with the hoodoo we're having at Man United. Tyler here. Conte deserves a lot of the blame for not changing anything after that half, and then not until the 80th minute is wild. The players were obviously horrible and lacking effort, though, for 70 minutes of the match. Dyer Davies, gone. They constantly make error after error, and it's sad. I think a lot of people probably would agree with that, Tyler, and I don't know much more I can really add to that, especially because I guess we haven't really got to the Conte blame part. I think where Conte deserves a lot of blame here, personally, for me, is that getting to halftime 0-0, I think is completely fine and completely acceptable. It's just once I guess he's been betrayed yet again. We probably haven't spoken about this, but he got betrayed kind of yet again, like we saw in the North London derby, where you get to halftime 0-0, you basically survive the war. Now it's about to getting the better performance in the second half, only to concede a minute or two into the start of the second half, and that's obviously not on the plans, and that's obviously not in any realm of I think, in my opinion, responsibility of Conte. So it just seems really unfair to him to have that happen a few times now in these away games, where in the North London derby as well as at Old Trafford, he concedes a goal really early into the second half, and it basically just throws probably whatever plan or method they had out the door, and he has to change things quickly. That being said, though, once he did go a goal down, he did have to change things, and he waited way too long to do it, and it really felt like the moment we started looking better again was when he made those changes to the 3-4-3, and that is where he bears responsibility, and I think that is where he bears criticism, is that he needed to make changes once we went a goal down. It felt bad for him that he went a goal down again, another time where we conceded, like I said, early in the second half when we're still 0-0 and we're in the game. But at the same time, he needs to make changes. That's what he's paid the big bucks for. Antonio Rodriguez got himself, could not have turned the game around yesterday. Look at our bench and see what Conte has to choose from. It is pathetic. The squad is too thin and vulnerable to injuries. You can't make gold from a bag of loser mentality in the big games, and the squad is not good enough, sadly, but true. I think we're starting to see with a lot of hindsight, like I brought up earlier, Antonio or Tony, that there really is no Kulusevski replacement. I guess we all thought we could get away with it maybe with Richarlison. Maybe we thought he'd be able to fill in. Lucas wouldn't be injured as much and he could be able to fill in. But it probably now seems, with the benefit of hindsight, Tony, like an area that was unaddressed. But when you really look at it, then you bring in the likes of Richarlison as sort of that backup number nine. And I think he is an exceptional backup number nine to Kane. Playing him as a winger gives him more opportunity to play and it gives him more minutes, but it isn't exactly his best position, as we all know. So to maybe kind of fix that problem that you're talking about, we should have brought in a player for the likes of Lucas or Hill. Either you send out Hill on loan, bring in somebody else that's more for the here and now, or you get rid of Lucas and you bring in somebody more for the here and now. But Tony, let me know which one you would have done between that, because I think that's kind of the answer to your problem there, my man. Big yourself up. Dara, agree with everything you said, but we as fans have to stop thinking we are one of the top teams, and we are not yet, with the exception of maybe 4 or 5 players. The rest would not get in City or Liverpool side. We will never bridge this gap the way we are run. It won't happen. I mean, if we were to go through the 11 yesterday, I think Dyer and Davies, again, it just does show like they really do stick out like a sore thumb when it comes to the actual overall quality of the team. Doherty, we all know, doesn't get into the team. Pretty much none of our right wing backs we know get into top 4 sides. Perisic, the rest of the side, I mean, you can make your arguments and it becomes a bit more kind of, I don't know, it just becomes a bit more debatable from there out. But you can point out easily 3 players that just simply would not even make it into any top 4 side whatsoever. So you are right there, Dara. CC, our away form is abysmal. We looked rattled. Our midfielders went missing, and the defense crumbled under pressure. Dyer Davies reverting to type and making mistakes every game now. Letting in 28 shots is unacceptable. Felt sorry for Kane and Sonny, to be honest. I am curious whether that was depth. It sort of started to look like maybe an actual game tactic or an actual game plan of Man United's was to unleash a lot of shots on us, because sort of felt like any player had sort of the license to do it, whether it was Fred, Dallo, Luke Shaw, essentially anybody was welcome to have a shot on goal against us. And that probably was to rattle us, and it probably was to overwhelm us. And you always can get a nasty deflection. And considering Davies' deflection, which pretty much helped Fred's goal as well, it does become, yeah, it definitely did rattle us. And there is something to be said, because a lot of people have said, is that sustainable for Spurs to concede so many shots a game? especially coming up against the bigger teams. When you start conceding that many shots, they're going to find a way to punish you more than the other teams might. And I think it's something Conte definitely bears responsibility for it. It's also, though, something that our defenders bear responsibility for, because Darren Davies just simply aren't good enough. I think we all agree on, especially after last night. Big up CC. Brian Smith, poor, but that was what you get against big teams if you defend deep. I was calling out for three in the midfield. Too many poor performances. Son, Dyer, Doherty, etc. I think what's disappointing, and I guess we'll get on to probably Doherty at some stage, but I think he really missed his chance to just basically impress Conte again. And wow, Conte, he had a few good opportunities actually. Even though he didn't do a whole lot in the game, I think he had a really few good opportunities to basically, kind of be a hero. If we all remember that one chance where he actually took a fabulous touch in the box, and then he went for a left-footed curler. When I thought he either could have tried to, I think what was said, he could have played Perisic, he could have maybe gone for a right-footed shot, taking his time there more, just could have just been better in that situation after having that fabulous first touch. And I think that moment like kind of just let us down a lot with Doherty, because that's what he's supposed to be doing that maybe an Emerson wouldn't. Brian, big yourself up. Queen Ellie, we were so poor. It hurts. David and Jack, we really got found out, and Man United exploited all our weaknesses. And boy, do we have a lot of them in our team. They were hungry for it. They were steak, and we were toast. Love it, Ellie. And as well, everybody do check out her fan cam. Please show her some support on the fan cam. Great fan cam that she did with Dave. United Spurs America, big up Jacob. I actually thought Basuma and Bentancur were decent. Our worst performers for me were Perisic and Dugbert. Is that I can't tell if that's Højbjerg or Doherty. Let me know. But overall, no one was good enough except for Hugo, Poppy, Lloris. Definitely agree with that latter part. Basuma, I just feel like with Basuma, we all expected just more from him. I think we probably might get, there probably is plenty of people that maybe dug him out maybe too hard. Jacob, you're probably right about that. Bentancur maybe did show the most effort overall, especially I think in the first half with how much he was getting forward. But Basuma, there were just a few moments when I think there was even that time when he had like 4 chances to have a good first touch, and he just simply gave it away with each first touch. And it was just shocking to watch, actually. And I think that just sort of reflected the whole performance of the midfield, because I think Højbjerg was easily guilty of things like that. Not exactly the poor first touches like that, but he gave the ball away in some really shocking occasions. Højbjerg didn't show the composure like we've seen from him as well this season. And I just think the whole midfield is pretty dreadful, to be honest. I don't really know. Like, I even asked in the fan camps, like, was there anyone that was particularly worse than the others? And I don't even know if I could answer that, but do let me know, everybody, in the comments. And as well, obviously, I'm getting to the Twitter here, everybody. I'm going to get to your comments once I finish the Twitter. But if you do want to skip the queue, everybody, feel free to support the channel with a super chat, especially on the solo effort here. Brad Matthews. But big yourself up, Jacob. Great comment. Brad Matthews, thought I'd feel better this morning. I do not. Yeah, I think I feel the same way, especially knowing I was going to be doing this show, Brad, in the morning. Agreed. Basuma had another bad game. Doherty just doesn't cross, and when he does it, it isn't good enough. I mean, he just doesn't cross in general. So how are we to know if it is good enough? Makes me wonder what Spence has to do to get some proper game time. Next game has to change. Longley comes in, and Sanchez/Tanganga have to play over Dyer. Big call there for Sanchez or Tanganga to play over Dyer. I don't know if that's happening, I'll be honest, JH, just because Antonio Conte has said he basically sees Dyer as the only guy that can play that sort of specialist position of the central center back. So we're going to have to probably stick with moon boots for the rest of the season until the January window. I just don't really see him playing anybody else through the middle unless he really loses full confidence with them. But I do see where your frustration lies. When it comes to Spence, I think we can all agree, like, it's either, I have personally said time before, I'd rather it just be Spence or Emerson. I think we know that Emerson does offer something different to the likes of Spence and Doherty, but I just wasn't never really convinced in the first place. But again, it's all debatable. You're welcome to disagree with me, but I just didn't think there was going to be that dramatic of a liftoff between Doherty versus Emerson. I think with the likes of Spence, though, you certainly could see a huge difference between him and Doherty and Emerson. But with Doherty, it's just like we've seen Doherty before. We know what he offers. And we also know that Conte hasn't really shown him a lot of faith this season, except when he's been forced to. And I think he definitely gave Doherty his needed praise, but that was a big opportunity for him. And it was weird as well, because in the 3-5-2, he had a great game against the likes of Everton when we switched to the 3-5-2. It was pretty shocking in the first half against Everton in 3-4-3. But when we would switch to the 3-5-2, I thought he was great. And it's kind of sad to see him just, turn into a completely different player in a 3-5-2, only to start in a 3-5-2 against Man United with kind of everything backing him, and just to put in a performance like that. Also, just a bit of a lazy performance, which is reflective of the whole squad, though. So I don't want to, isolate him or pick him out too much. Big up JH. Great comment, my man. Lucentum Spurs, when we play against top six clubs, performances are average to an extent. And I think the results against top six clubs have not been great or recent. To be fair, I think most teams in the league have not actually picked up any real good top six results. If I'm not mistaken, I think We Are Time TV put out a pretty interesting stat or tweet about the actual top six record of most teams in the league this season. So it is quite interesting. May and Rob, for all the talk from players that they want to create something special, they never once turned up. It's not that they aren't good enough. It's like Delhi. They think they are at Spurs and made it. Maybe a bit of complacency. Interesting kind of thought there, May and Rob. I like that bit of complacency, and it certainly could be a bit of the kind of the Delhi syndrome kind of coming through there. Delhi, to be fair to him, turned up in big games multiple times. Yeah, I guess so, but definitely not towards the end of his time at Spurs. At least that's how I felt, Killa, especially against Liverpool. I thought he had a good performance, but he didn't win the game. I think he had so many chances to win the game for us, and he just simply didn't. But I see what you're probably saying, Killa Priest. I do probably see what you're saying. Steve Dye, been saying for weeks our problems run deeper than our defense. We've beaten just teams at bottom of the table. We've been battered by Chelsea, United, Arsenal. Top four is a huge ask this season, and let's have it right. We were gifted top four last season. We were gifted top four by the likes of the Gooners, but to say that we didn't make a valiant effort to go for it, I think is really harsh on us, Steve, if you ask me. I think to kind of just write that whole off and just say it was all luck is a bit ridiculous, because at the end of the day, it's not our problem that the Gooners dropped the points, and it certainly is our credit that we made that effort to get back into the top four race. So might stop you there, but with the likes of Chelsea, I think we probably, I don't know, there's something about that sort of performance where Chelsea did just show up for us. They never played well before that or after that under Thomas Tuchel. They just simply showed up against us. Arsenal, I mean, we all know how that horribly went wrong, but also how certain players let us down in Arsenal. And I don't think a lot of that really had to do with Antonio Conte, like the likes of Lloris and Emerson. And then the United game, I definitely feel you, and I do see where you're coming from. But big up, Steve Dye. So yeah, Steve Dye. Bricktop, Mr. Pulford. Need more players, especially quality wingbacks. They offer zero offensively. Conte said it would take 4 windows. I did see something from Tottenham Tears as well, actually saying that there's some sort of negotiation that Antonio Conte is like demanding around like 200 million, I think, over the next like 4 windows or something like that. I think the next 4 windows he wants like a transfer budget of around 200 million to be able to spend. However, he wants to allocate it for the next, January and the next summer. I'm not sure, but I think I saw something from Tottenham Tears about that. So do let me know, Brick. Not, I don't read Arabic, so unfortunately I can't. But he says, agreed totally. But how many times have we been here? It's the same inconsistent group. Still don't understand that these occasional schoolboy performances that have cost us so much over the years. What is the cause? Like I said, I think my main reason that I can point to right away is just simply the mentality and the lack of leadership. I think lack of leadership maybe just comes from, I think, Eric Dyer and Lloris, people that have been in the squad for a long, long time and still have sort of been the victim of these sort of performances. And I think also part of it just has to do with a sort of, how would you say, like a history and this team that seems to still persist. And I'm not sure if it's because of the players of the past, like I just mentioned, or if it's just some sort of, I don't know, ever riding thing that seems to be there. Not, I don't have a good answer for you, but it's a good comment there, my man. Peter Christie, pathetic performance from top to bottom, which means players, manager, and coaching staff. I think definitely coaching staff bears responsibility for sure. Larry Sock, Puppet, Kane and Son, penalty box stuck in the mud champions, October 22nd, Percy and Daka to, not even sure what even that means. And also, I don't get it. Sonny Lowry, Spence got ball in injury time, drove at fullback and progressed the ball 20 to 30 yards. not check back and pass back like Doherty. Until wingbacks do this to stretch play, the system won't work against top teams. I kind of agree there. The bravery to take on their opposing fullback, and Spence is kind of the only guy that we all know that can do it with some sort of ease, or at least do it with that sort of bravery that you're speaking about. And Doherty just only does it when he wants to, and Emerson's pretty shocking at it. So even when he tries, he can be pretty shocking at it. But I do know that's a good comment there, Sonny. It's a good comment there. MJ Penn Davies was squad depth for the Poch era. Doherty would have been behind Walker and Trippier. Dyer would not have started ahead of Jan or Toby. Eriksson and Dembele started ahead of the mids. Squad quality has declined significantly. Spurs are better than last year in depth, but not quality. I feel like Basuma, though, everybody rated Basuma higher than Højbjerg, and then all of a sudden he's not. So that either says a lot about Højbjerg or that says very little about Basuma, however you want to take that. I think that we have improved in terms of the quality of the squad. Maybe we haven't improved as much as some people would like, but to say that we just haven't improved at all, I think is a bit, I don't know, it's just not true, because even you just look at Longley, like Longley, we all can see yesterday, is a better center back than Davies. Conte made the mistake of playing Davies, and Davies definitely didn't do him the service or put in a good performance for him. But it's not like we're stuck with Davies like we were last season. Last season, we were stuck with Davies. So we had to always play him, even if he did have mares like this. So Longley is able to now step in for him. And the same thing goes for other positions. I agree, though, that I think there are plenty of parts in the squad, plenty of parts that you could say just hadn't been addressed well enough or hadn't been addressed significantly enough. I'll accept that. But to say that we just haven't improved at all in terms of quality, I think it's just, I think it's being a bit, I don't know, just too negative, or not negative, just I just disagree. Claire Young, it's always gutting to lose, but it's deeply gutting and infuriating to lose in the way we did. Where's the fight, the grit, the passion? I'm bored of this story. Great comment there, Claire. Players aren't good enough for the system. Personally, I go 4-4-2 diamond with Kane out of 10. Well, if you want Conte to just go to whatever system that the fans want, we might as well not have Conte. But I can see why other formations, other shapes might improve some of the problems we have, but I think we have to realize that Conte should stick with the formations and the shapes that have brought him success over his careers. And I don't think that we as Spurs, a club that haven't won anything, should tell him how to set up his teams. But that's just me personally. I'm going to get to the community section, and then we're going to end off the show, everybody. Not the best of vibes, not the best of moods. I'm not going to, not going to hide it. But we're going to keep plowing on. We're going to keep going through it, and do really appreciate all the people that left their comments for this show, everybody. And again, sorry that Dave isn't here for this one. Again, he's just not feeling very well, and he just put in a real performance, I think, to be able to show up for the watch along yesterday. But I just know he wasn't feeling well in the first place, and so do wish him well, and hopefully he can recover soon. Everybody. Nick Coupland, Dave, I have a question for you. We need a whole new back line after that shocking performance. Should we sell Kane to generate the finance to rebuild from the back? Absolutely not, Nick. If we're selling Kane, then we lose Conte. So that's what I would just simple ask. If we sell Kane, then I think we lose Conte. Conte is not allowing us to sell Harry Kane. We shouldn't even need to have to sell Kane to also generate finance for the back. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to sort of fix the backline problems in whatever way you can, Nick, and I totally see the effort there. But I mean, if we sell Kane, we sell Conte, basically. Levy will not relax the purse strings. Would love your thoughts, mate. And I see that's what you're trying to do. You just think that in order to build the back line, we'll have to get rid of a significant player, but it just means then that Levy would just have to flex the purse strings. And if you don't believe he will, then yeah, you might be left to that sort of situation, but I don't think that's happening. I just don't think that's happening, Nick. Adam Phillip, as soon as I saw Basuma come out in the second half wearing gloves, I knew it was over. That's pretty funny, actually. Adam, Basuma disappeared more in the second half than he even did towards the end of the first half. And the same goes, though, for Højbjerg and Bentancur. Don't get me wrong, Adam. Great comment. Lasega Makona, I thought Dyer and Davies were shocking. When you play big games, you need an aggressive defender or quick one so that you can play a high line and press the opposition. Dyer and Davis force us to be deep. We need another Romero type player. I think in the case of Davies, he's not slow, I think, but he's not as quick as he probably should be considering his height, and everything. it feels like with the likes of Romero, it's just that he has that aggression and he has that willingness to step out more, which gives you more of a chance probably to have a higher line because he's not going to let kind of people just bully all over his back line. And probably that complacency of Dyer and Davies does contribute to us like continuing to kind of lag back or sag back the back line. So you're probably right there, Lasego, actually. Mikalayo, I can see Conte's approach is to bide his time, bringing in players to suit the EPL while developing the skills of his current squad. I can see us challenging for titles in a year or so, but to see Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United struggle and not capitalize after a year with Conte, I'm simply upset with players for not stepping up this season. I'm really liking this comment, Mikhailo. This season, it happens time and time again. I don't like to be a fan who complains, but it's 100% down to poor performances across the pitch. Lloris mentioned the final third in his post-match interview, which is true, but Dyer, etc., at the back were shocking too. It's hard for me. I guess we haven't gotten a Son and Kane yet on this one, so I'd be curious to know what people have to say. But I just don't know if Son and Kane really got the service at all for me to really kind of dig into them very much. And in fact, I thought Sonny had some pretty exceptional first touches at times. I thought Kane had some pretty nice switches of play and tried his best to find players. Maybe their movement overall wasn't as good as people wanted it to be. Perhaps they should have just been trying to make more space for themselves, but they did feel really alone on the ball. Whenever they did get the service, they just felt like they just had no one else to play to other than each other. And perhaps they could have done a bit more maybe to create for themselves. But I actually thought they didn't give the ball away too much and they actually weren't sloppy as much as other players were because I kind of felt like the midfield was a lot more sloppy than we expected it to be and more sloppy than they usually are. But Kane and Son, I thought, did okay with the chances that they were given, but they really weren't given any chances or really any service whatsoever. But I could be completely wrong on that. So let me know in the chat. But I really didn't think actually Kane and Son were all that bad, but I didn't think they were all that good either. I just didn't think they really got much service to begin with to really, I don't know, to really think about it. But big up Mikalayo. I actually really love that comment, especially lots of parts of that. Big up, my man. Especially, and I agree, not capitalizing on the downfall of Liverpool and Chelsea and Man United this season. You're absolutely right, my man. Um, the ball mostly bounced off Kane and Son. I feel like maybe I'm more thinking about the first half than Paul. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. I just kind of thought they really didn't have that poor touches, honestly, especially Sonny. I didn't remember Sonny really losing the ball in too many occasions, and especially with his first touch. But I don't really know. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I could just be maybe the second half. It just got a whole lot worse, Paul. But I probably just started going blind. It was that poor of a performance there, Paul. Ricky Nato, our approach is slow in games. We are scared away from home. Needs to be brave and be aggressive. We are a completely different team away from home versus home. Absolutely right. Reeds, our biggest problem is that we have a weak mentality in these big away games. Chelsea, we got lucky to get a draw. We got outplayed against Arsenal and Man United and have been outclassed and outplayed. Conte has got to take some responsibility for these big games in the away performances, in my opinion. I definitely feel like he should take responsibility. You're absolutely right, Reeds, but there's also a bit of a common denominator here with the players as well. They need to take into account, like, he can only set them up in the best way he can. And he's also shown to have a lot of success with us here. And I don't know. It just shows probably he does have a bit of responsibility for it, but I think the players also just have a huge responsibility as well because it's also their mentality and their lack of leadership, I think, as well. But I think I see where you're coming from, Reeds. Chukwemeka, guys, let's tell ourselves the truth. All the top teams, we have the least quality of players at the moment. Besides, there was barely any quality player we could have brought on as a substitute. That's actually true. The other two players we could have considered, Richarlison and Kulu, are still out. Manchester United went to the market, spent a lot of money, and brought in quality players. Arsenal took time to build their squad. They weren't always this good. For me, besides Kane and Son, I think the others were okay. And I think Conte is making the best of what he has. That's not to say that he can't do better with the squad. That's another person who thought that Kane and Son played really, really, really poor. And I'm wondering, is that just because they just didn't do anything with what they were given? But I just sort of felt like they just didn't have any runners. Like, it just felt like the only players they could have played were each other. And maybe they could have done better with that, but I just didn't really. If I recall, whenever I felt I saw Kane or Sonny on the ball, they really didn't have many runners or any players really to play to. It felt like there's just not really a lot going forward. But again, I just could be. I'm happy to be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected because honestly, it's such a dismal performance. I could have started just honestly, going blind at a certain stage. Um, when it comes to Man United's transfer window, I mean, a lot of those players were sort of already there. I think you look at Sancho, he was already there. You look at Ronaldo, he was already there. Rashford was already there. Bruno was already there. Casemiro has sort of only just started coming good this season. Like he's been having a shaky start. I think it was a great buy for them to bring in a player like that, but I think that still was a horrible transfer when you look at what they actually spent. And that's what Man United do, though. I mean, they'll spend a ton of money no matter how ridiculous of a transfer it may be, and no matter how much of a flop it may turn out, they will spend the money, and that is something that Spurs ultimately do not do. So you're probably right about that. Chukwuemeka, big yourself up, my man. Indiana Stones, we change managers, stadiums, and formations, and it's always the same old story. It's got to be something wrong. All the money in the world can't fix. At this rate, Conte will jump ship to Juve before long. I mean, he's jumping from one dumpster fire to another there, Indiana. Also, Conte must think subs are for time wasting in the last 10 minutes of the game. It's the same shite all the time. When we need to prove to ourselves that we've turned a corner, we just muck things up each and every time. Might just watch the Spurs ladies games. At least they're showing improvement each season. I mean, Ash Neville is absolutely killing it right now, Indiana. Big up to yourself, Dave, the tidal wave, and Jack, the flat cap army. Big yourself up, my man. Really do appreciate you, Indiana. And I think Conte, at the moment, like I said, Indiana Stones, the Tottenham Tiers are reporting that Conte is sort of at the moment negotiating and thinking about those contract extensions and all that. And there's sort of only good news coming about with the contract extensions, not any bad news. But who knows with this sort of result and everything, there could be some bad news coming out. But from what I've seen so far, signs are pointing towards Conte extending the contract, funny enough. And even though I could see why people think he'd be probably really frustrated right now and why we'd probably think we're silly not to take advantage of the situation like we were saying earlier with the league and whatnot. Indiana, I think at the moment from what I can tell you is that the news and everything are pointing towards Conte, I guess, extending a contract. So um that's just my thoughts on it, but big up Indiana. Rob Domino, we've had this ongoing issue for seasons. There's a huge psychological element to it. When we're supposed to win against the big boys, we lose. And when we're supposed to lose, we pull through and get a result. It's about how we view ourselves as a club. The players have an underdog mentality, and that's great. If you're supposed to be an underdog, this is a great answer maybe for why we're having such poor away form, especially in the top 6 games. Wow, this is a big one. We're Liverpool and Man City's bogey teams for F's sake. Shouldn't a team like that be challenging? Not in our case. We did well under Poch because we were bred to be underdogs, but then the time to move on from that has arrived. We have had no idea how to carry ourselves. Mourinho came in and we got results. This is a great answer, Rob. Because he instilled the siege mentality, once we reached the top of the table, we slid right back off and had no idea how to progress. And the same again with Conte. There's something interesting in that, whereas we always just maybe play better with the underdog mentality. And when you have people like Mourinho and Conte, perhaps the underdog mentality just simply isn't there. And we're more like going for the siege mentality. You're right. The club needs more sports psychologists because there are major issues in regards to self-image and belief. If we don't have players that believe in themselves, the desire and energy they expend on the pitch is an utter waste. This all goes back to Levy and Enoch. They're supposed to set the tone for the club. They don't invest or give any true signals of intent. That type of feeling permeates through the club. The negativity spreads and affects everyone from the fans to the players. We need to start looking at the greater message and ethos in which this club is being run. We're Spursy, even with our greatest start in years. We look horrible. Conte is getting results against the odds without the backing he really needed. Why can't we put the odds in our favor so we don't have to play this underdog game anymore? Underdog mentality can only last until after we win our first trophy. Then what? Do we just collapse down the table again or just magically become winners? Winning is a mindset. We don't have that yet. Honestly, everybody, find this Rob Domino. He's written a beautiful essay here, an absolute beautiful essay, almost like a Spurs thesis there. I don't even want to discredit this, Rob. I might just take alert David to it, and I'd love to see David actually react to it. So big yourself up, Rob. Get a big thumbs up from the Harris Army, my man. Big Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. I want Dave to respond to that when he's good and healthy. Ace JC, it's the same old story, whether it's Old Trafford, Emirates, Stamford Bridge, or our time honored favorite Anfield. The players ball it or not show. There's a culture of this under Daniel Levy. We were speaking about earlier with the last one, Ace, but funny enough, we seem to be having a good underdog mentality against the likes of Liverpool and Man City. But when we're supposed to have, like you said, the siege mentality against the teams maybe that we should be challenging against, Chelsea, Arsenal, etc., we don't. We actually kind of crumble. So there's some, maybe that's the answer there. Big up to always in there. Big yourself up. Nick Coupland with another one. We had the chance to show the rest of the league we mean business, a shocking performance with no effort, desire, passion, bottle. We didn't turn up. We could have played with any formation today and still got beat. To concede 1.1 minutes into the second half was a joke. Dyer, Davies, Doherty, Sanchez, Emerson aren't good enough for GHFC. Get them out in January. Big up, Nick. Shane O'Neill, our players aren't the greatest level anyway, despite what I have to hear every week. But they have a squad full of weak mentalities, not a winner in the group. I don't want Conte blamed. The squad is a bag of rags, and he managed to get fourth with it. Romero is getting worse as the weeks go on. All I'm seeing is players not wanting to risk injury. A lot of people are starting to believe in kind of the World Cup restraint, or how players are kind of restraining themselves from really putting in their full effort consistently because of the World Cup. And I'm not sure if there's something behind that. All I can say is that, and I've brought this up before, is that majority of our players happen to be the best players in their respective World Cup sides. So if they are saving themselves for the World Cup, I'd be ashamed. But there is something to be said that they are like the starters and the main players in their respective World Cup sides. Romero, Kane, Lloris, even Davies happens to be one of the main players in Wales. You look at even Perisic for Croatia. You look at through the midfield, Højbjerg, Bentancur are all main starters for their national sides as well. You look at up top for Kane, Son, Kulusevski. It's all just, they're all the main players for their respective sides. And it's just kind of something you have to take into consideration, that they all are going to be playing a lot of World Cup minutes. Derek Smith, complete meltdown from fans. We were never going to not lose. The squad is a work in progress. Conte said more transfer windows were needed, so we lost. Big deal. On to the next one. I'd love to say that after this, Derek, but I've been put in a very dark place after going through all this. Appreciate you, my man. Kieran Spiteri, the performance is poor, but we have to get behind the team and move on to the next game and get better clubs, get better clubs, get poor performances like this. This is what football is, so it is what it is. Move on to the next game. I don't know. Sorry, Kieran. Maybe you might have read that wrong. Big yourself up. Just the same old Spurs. Whenever the pressure is on us to get closer to the top of the league, we crumble in the worst possible way. We need to overcome this kind of mentality. We can have any great manager, but if our players cannot believe in themselves, then what is the point? A lot of people are kind of talking about this sort of kind of inner mentality of the players and how it's sort of let down the managers. Obviously, Rob Domino with that beautiful essay on it, and then Jerome sort of alluding to it here. And definitely something to be speaking about on the debate shows. Really appreciate that, Jerome. Absolutely love it. Liam 1, since we're all in the mood now, how fucking dreadful is that away kit? I want to scrape my eyeballs out when they wear it. It's like players, it's like the players forget they're football players and they think they've got their swimsuits on for a day at the beach. I don't know if it's swimsuits as much as it seems like they're maybe going out for a bit of scuba diving and a bit of snorkeling is what I would say, Liam. It's not as much, a day at the beach. It's more a day at like the marina, a day at the coral reef, to see some fishes. It's more of a scuba diving outfit, if you ask me. Enrique Braceno, the goals conceded weren't even good plays from United. Højbjerg and Dyer not good enough leading up to both goals, giving the ball away and not putting in strong tackles to kill the attacks. Definitely true when it comes to Dyer, played a huge part in it. You're absolutely right, Enrique. Charles 876, squad not good enough, need better players. Very simply said. Colin Turner, lack of desire, lack of pace, especially in the middle, needed to change at halftime. Conte seems reluctant to change the football. It is becoming a hard watch. It is becoming a hard watch, especially when he isn't making those substitutions at halftime, or those substitutions at least when we went a goal down, Colin. And it all really pointed to that's what needed to happen in order for us to get some semblance of a result. And Conte didn't do it. And that's where he takes a part of the blame. And I agree with you there, my man. Liam 1, first 5 to 10 minutes, I thought we were okay. I thought we I thought, okay, we came to play. How wrong was I? Awful, awful, awful. Spineless, weak, diabolical, atrocious, embarrassing, and supine performance. No composure, can't play out from the back, can't cope with the press. Sloppy, misplaced passing once again. I think even Eric Ten Hag basically took a page out of Lego Man's book, and he said that basically just press the back line and cause them problems. Turnover FC, three defensive midfielders, um, type midfielders or back-to-back midfielders that yet we still looked like Donut FC, nothing in the middle, not dropping into the right spaces to receive the pass. Is Basuma's job literally to receive 6-foot passes and tap it straight back? He's more than that, surely. He looked lost. Dyer Davies showing once again why they just don't cut the mustard against any decent quality opposition. It's not reactionary to say that this result was worrying and could potentially loom over us for the rest of the season. Why? Because if we don't have the mettle to at least compete in these games like this, we won't be getting top 4 finish this year. And I don't have to spell out what that would mean for the manager in particular. It was not just an off day because of the same issues keep popping up over and over again. Liam one with a big fat reality check for Spurs fans. Very, very good one, Liam, and a really great comment, brother. Rob Domino and Liam one, I would say, winning it in the community section there. And I think Dave would love to respond to that as well. Liam one, appreciate you, my man. Richard Evans, Spurs have never had bragging rights about anything. Oh, yeah, because I think he's just speaking about how I said this would be a big game to get the bragging rights. I've meant more in terms of the media. I would say Richard meant more in terms of the media just in this season. Marlon Green, a complete lack of intensity from all the outfield players. Hugo's the only one who can hold his head up following that shit show. There's something inherently wrong with this club. The lack of intensity in these big games is woven into the fabric of the club, and I'm fucking sick of it. Every year at the Emirates, OT, every year at the Emirates, Old Trafford, Stamford Bridge, it's the same shit story. Big expletives. Cavcoff Gaming, big yourself up. Who's that? Marlon Green. Really appreciate you, brother. Cavcoff Gaming, no one fears Tottenham because they have no creativity in the squad, and the manager also lacks creativity. Conte will be sacked sooner than later, or will have to leave because nothing is going to change. It will forever be just Spurs, and the transfer market should have opened your eyes to see that nothing will change. Kane will leave, and so will Son and Romero. The only 3 players in the squad who can actually do something on the pitch. Everyone else is average at best and gets you nowhere. Luck is all Spurs ever had now. It's ran out. True colors start to show. New manager bounce is over. Wow. Well, nothing to get up for anymore, Kavkov, I would say then. Martin, awful, disgraceful, cowardly performance. Well, there it is. That's the end of it. That is the end of the Twitter reacts and the community section. A tough one. A tough one to read, a tough one to go through. I appreciate you all sitting with me and reading through them. I responded to them best I can. Some of them I don't feel so doom and gloom about. Other ones I definitely agree with, and I also still though just try to read it out, and I try not to. I try to see it from your side. So that is the whole point of this show. That is the whole point of the Twitter reacts in the community section. I do appreciate you all tuning in for this one. Not the best of moods, not the best of vibes. I do understand everybody, but it is just one of those sort of shows. Please hit that like button on your way out. Do keep supporting the channel, especially I think with, while we're still putting out the content, even with Dave sick, we're still putting out the content these days for you, everybody. There will be a fan show, I can promise, tomorrow. I'm not sure whether Dave will be there, but there will be a fan show, at least led by myself. Maybe someone else might join me as well. But please hit that like button on your way out. Hang in your head in there. Please, let's just move on to Sunday. If we get the result there, I think we can then start to think about, how can we start to bounce back again. But certainly I agree with Liam that this is a big fat reality check and certainly not something that we can just hide away from a certain result. But at the end of the day, everybody, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust. I will be seeing you.